The Indiana Fever's roller coaster season, defined by resilience, heartache, and relentless injury setbacks, reached yet another critical point on Sunday when Sophie Cunningham, a guard who had finally begun to emerge as one of the most essential players for this franchise after months of struggles and adaptation, suffered what could be a devastating right knee injury in the opening minutes of what would ultimately become one of the most historic comebacks in Fever history against the Connecticut Sun. And while the team celebrated the triumph on the scoreboard, the emotional undertone of the night carried a heavy weight because Cunningham, who had already endured multiple ankle injuries earlier this season, had to be physically helped off the court by medical staff after collapsing in visible pain when Connecticut's Bria Hartley, having just released a pass to the corner that Lexi Hall intercepted, lost her balance and tumbled directly into Cunningham's leg, sending her crashing to the hardwood, clutching her knee in an image that instantly silenced the arena and left her teammates, coaches, and fans stunned with fear. And it was a scene so alarming that Fever head coach Stephanie White, despite her professionalism and ability to compartmentalize under duress, later admitted that her immediate gut reaction in that moment was complete dread because of how Cunningham fell and how she instinctively reached for her knee, describing the emotional shift from panic to problem solving as the staff quickly surrounded her, assessed the injury, and carefully assisted her toward the locker room while the players formed a protective circle around her to shield her from the crowd's anxious gaze. But the truth is that no immediate clarity came from the incident, since White confirmed that Cunningham will undergo an MRI on Monday to determine the severity. And until those results are revealed, both her future in this season and the Fever's postseason ambitions hang precariously in the balance, because for all of the Fever's injury woes in this turbulent campaign, Cunningham's rise since the All-Star break had been one of the few undeniable bright spots, with her averages of 12.2 points, 2.7 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and 1.1 steals per game on jaw-dropping shooting efficiency of 55.1% from the field, 52.8% from deep, and 90.9% from the line, showcasing not only her scoring touch, but also her maturity in finding ways to positively impact both ends of the court. And it was this two-way consistency that propelled her into the core rotation and gave the Fever a steadying influence during the most crucial phase of the season. So losing her now, when the team is desperately fighting for playoff positioning, would be a devastating blow that could undo weeks of progress, especially considering that the Fever already entered this season with sky-high expectations, only to watch those hopes get repeatedly battered by an avalanche of injuries, most notably to rookie phenom Caitlin Clark, whose debut year was supposed to usher in a new era of excitement, but instead has been marred by 3 separate soft tissue injuries that limited her to just 13 games, the most recent setback keeping her sidelined since mid-July with no official timetable for a return despite the season rapidly approaching its conclusion. And when you factor in the season-ending blows to Ari McDonald, who suffered a broken foot, and Sydney Colson, who tore her ACL, the reality is that the Fever's roster has been absolutely gutted, forcing players like Cunningham to shoulder more responsibility, making her sudden collapse against the Sun all the more crushing for both the locker room and the fan base, because it is not simply the physical absence of a starter they would have to endure, but also the emotional ripple effect of watching another teammate fall at the worst possible time. Yet despite these grim realities, the team still managed to dig deep and orchestrate a stunning comeback that not only secured a vital 19th win of the season, pushing their record to 19-16, but also gave them breathing room in the playoff chase by creating a 2.5-game cushion over the 9th-place Los Angeles Sparks, which is 9 contests remaining on the schedule, meaning their postseason destiny remains in their own hands, though the challenge grows exponentially harder if Cunningham is sidelined long-term. And it's worth emphasizing just how irreplaceable she had become in recent weeks, as statistical analysis showed the Fever were plus 1.8 points per 100 possessions with her on the floor, but plummeted to minus 3.5 when she sat. A swing in impact that trailed only all-star anchor Aaliyah Boston and scoring dynamo Kelsey Mitchell, proving beyond any shadow of a doubt that Cunningham had evolved into a vital connector between the team's stars and its supporting cast. The type of player whose absence forces an entire roster shuffle, creates pressure on rotations, and leaves the coaching staff scrambling to find production from unproven or inconsistent options. So now the entire Fever organization must brace for the MRI results that will dictate whether this will be another short-term setback or a catastrophic end to Cunningham's inaugural season with Indiana after spending her first 6 campaigns with the Phoenix Mercury, where she was known as a gritty, energetic guard, but never quite unlocked the level of offensive efficiency she was beginning to demonstrate in recent weeks before this cruel twist of fate. And that is what makes this situation feel so gut-wrenching, because this was supposed to be the stretch where Cunningham fully cemented herself as a cornerstone piece in the Fever's rotation, a versatile player who could stretch the floor, defend multiple positions, and bring veteran toughness to a young roster that desperately needed stability. But instead, the franchise now stares at another uncertain chapter in what has become a narrative dominated less by potential and more by survival. Yet the defining feature of this group has been resilience, as demonstrated by their comeback victory against one of the top teams in the league, even after Cunningham's injury threatened to derail their focus, proving that they are not willing to quit despite every obstacle. And that determination will be tested in the coming weeks as they attempt to navigate the brutal reality of professional basketball, where injuries can instantly alter the trajectory of an entire season. And while no one knows exactly what Monday's MRI will reveal, the stakes are clear. If Sophie Cunningham is lost for any significant time, the Fever's already slim margin for error in the playoff race becomes razor thin. Their depth will be stretched beyond its limits, and their inspiring push toward postseason relevance could collapse under the weight of attrition. But if by some measure of fortune the injury proves less severe than feared, then this resilient, battered, and battle-tested Indiana squad may still find a way to achieve what once seemed improbable. Because as Sunday's historic comeback win showed, no matter how many times adversity tries to break them, this team refuses to be defined by defeat. And that spirit, more than any single statistic, is why their story continues to resonate so fiercely with fans who see in the Fever not just a basketball team, but a mirror of perseverance, grit, and the relentless pursuit of hope against overwhelming odds. And so as the season barrels toward its final stretch, all eyes now shift to Sophie Cunningham's fate, because her health may very well determine whether Indiana's story ends as another tale of heartbreak or transforms into one of the most inspiring playoff pushes the league has seen in years.